Dia de los Muertos. I'm Tey Marianna Nunn. I'm the director of the National Hispanic Cultural Center Art Museum and our Visual Arts program, and I want to welcome you all here tonight. I think it's going to be a very special Dia de los Muertos, and remember today is All Souls Day, right Arturo? All Saints Day and All Souls Day.
Thank you so much for being here tonight. As I like to remind audiences, I wrote this story the spring after my mother died. My mother died on November 1st, 2007. And the spring after, someone came to my house to visit, stay at their artist residency that I had at that time, and immediately lost their cat. So this is based on during a time when I didn't feel like leaving my house, I didn't feel like putting on shoes, I didn't feel like combing my hair. I was in deep mourning, so I appreciate that you put on your shoes, and it looks like you combed your hair, so thank you for coming out tonight. I appreciate that. Okay, I want to read the story, not in its entirety, because we don't have that kind of time, but enough of it so you get a sense of the story, and then Ester will come up, and we'll have a dialogue. Okay, so I'll just read and then we'll talk about the story. Have you seen Marie? The day Marie and Rosalind arrived on a visit from Tacoma was the day Marie ran off. It had taken 3 days of driving to get to San Antonio, and Marie had cried the whole way. I felt like crying and taking off too. My mother had died a few months before. I was 53 years old and felt like an orphan. I was an orphan. Every day I woke up and felt like a glove left behind at the bus station. I didn't know I would feel this way. Nobody told me. I'd been hiding in my house since. Most days I didn't even comb my hair, and most days I didn't care. The thought of talking to people made me feel woozy. And now Rosalind was here, and Marie was gone, and I was the only person Rosalind knew in all of Texas. I put on my shoes and grabbed my house keys. I followed Roz up and down the streets of my neighborhood and along both banks of the San Antonio River. We asked the neighbors. We put up flyers. Have you seen Marie? Reward, recompensa, lost cat, gata perdida, black and blanca, whitey negra. She looks like she's wearing a tuxedo. Have you seen Marie? The Reverend Giovanna, who lives in the corner house across the street, said he hadn't seen any new cats around. But he did add, as he drove off, I'll put it on my request list to God. Down the block where Steering meets Gunther, father trimmed a lantana bush, his 2 girls hanging upside down from the porch rail like possums. Have you seen Marie? The bigger girl snatched the flyer from her daddy's hands before he even had a chance to read it. How much is the reward? She asked upside down. $100, I said, making up the amount on the spot. $100? A boy sailing past on a bicycle tumbled into the lantana, bike and all. The smaller girl leapt off the porch rail and took the flyer over to her cat. Muffin, have you seen this kitty? Muffin sniffed the flyer, but did not or would not say. In a hackberry tree shading the Acapulco ice house, a squirrel flicked her tail like a housewife shaking a dirty dust rag. Have you seen Marie? The squirrel stared at us suspiciously, as if we'd steal her secret stash of pecans. Okay, well, let us know if you hear something. We walked down alleys, gravel crunching underfoot. We talked in between fence slats to folks getting ready to barbecue, the scent of mesquite and fajitas reminding us we hadn't had lunch yet. Over on Adams Street, we interrupted the family Ozuna Sunday get-together. ¿Qué? Grandma Ozuna said. They're looking for a cat, Yaya. A hat? No, Yaya, un gato. A cat. A cat! A cat! They shouted into her ear. lost more than a cat, pobrecita. Roz and I wedged flyers on doorknobs, tucked them inside the curlicues of gates, clamped them beneath the mousetraps of windshield wipers, stapled them on telephone poles and fences. We stopped a bearded man in his wheelchair collecting empty cans from the recycling bins of houses on Mission Street. He took our flyer and said, "Man, I'm sorry about your cat. I lost my own cat once and cried like a baby." You only have to look at his faded blue eyes to see that this was probably true. The neighbor Luli walked by with her pets following behind her in single file like a parade. A cat, a chihuahua, and a dog as fat as a brown bear. Luli has witnessed too much grief for one lifetime and has a teardrop etched near her left eye to prove it. But no, she hadn't seen Marie. "Isn't it a shame to lose the one you love?" Luli asked. "Yes, it is," I agreed. When I said it, my heart felt as if someone squeezed it. Clouds dark and in a hurry swept past, wind chimes rang, the trees shook their wild loose hair. Rosalind and I agreed to split up and meet in an hour before it grew too dark to see. Rosalind went upriver toward the flour mill. I went downriver toward the big Tex granary and the old Lone Star Brewery. The sun was already behind the freeway. Grackles gathering in the trees called out, "Marie, Marie, Marie." I asked the river, "Have you seen Marie?" River said, "Amita, you name it, I've seen it." "Do you mean you've seen her?" "I've seen everything, corazón de melón. Everything, 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 everything," River continued. "But I don't understand what you mean." There was something in my throat. I felt like I'd swallowed a spoon. I put my face under the water and cried. River said, "Don't you cry, mamas. I will take your tears and carry them to the Texas coast where they'll mix with the salty tears of the Gulf of Mexico, where they will swirl with the waters of the Caribbean, with the wide sea called Sargasso, the water roads of the Atlantic, with the whirls and eddies around the Cape of Good Hope, around that hat called Patagonia, the blue waters of the Black Sea, and the pearl-filled waters around the islands of Japan, the coral currents of Java, the rivers of the several continents, the Aegean of Homer's legend, the mighty Amazon and the wise Nile, the grandmother and grandfather rivers, Tigris and Euphrates, the great mother river, the sandy Yangtze, the dancing Danube, and through the Strait of the Dardanelles, along the muddy Mekong and the sleepy Ganges, waters warm as soup and waters cold to the teeth, waters carrying away whole villages, waters washing away the dead, and waters bringing new life, the salty and the sweet, mixing with everything, 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 everything. I'll stop there.
I'm from Dulce, so welcome. And for those 3 students who didn't make it, you better tell them that this was a crazy evening in Albuquerque. And also, I don't know if Krista Fouts is here. Is Krista Fouts here? Okay, I just have to point out, and I'm sorry I don't know her husband's name, but some of you will remember last year when the ofrenda opened and there was a bride and a groom who got their picture taken in front of the ofrenda, and she was a little conflicted because she really wanted to hear Sandra's talk, but she was having her wedding reception and needed a groom. So we got a hold of her, so happy anniversary. So I know that Sandra and Ester have done this before, so I'm just going to let them have it, but I'm going to start with a couple questions. And when you want me to change the photos of the images, you can tell me which ones, and I'll get up and do that. But first of all, I just had a really burning question, which was, and we will open this up to the audience too, so, are you both cat people?
I actually own more dogs than cats. I'm an animal person. And, you know, if you let me, I would have an elephant. Very fond of animals. I was one of those kids that, you know, would always ask my mother if I could bring a stray in, or she'd look out the kitchen window and say, "Who's that?" I said, "Well, he's just staying for the weekend," you know. And I had animals like that. But my mother was you know, she came from gente campesina, from ranch people, so she didn't believe in animals in the house. And, you know, I was always very sad about that. And, little kid, I would say, "Oh, when I grow up, I'm going to have 11 cats and 13 dogs." And I'm getting close. So I have mainly more dogs than cats.
I don't have any pets right now because I'm always coming and going, and I would be a bad mama because they need too much attention, especially the dogs. But I grew up in the countryside too, and we could barely feed ourselves, much less any pets. I grew up in the Valle San Joaquin in California, the farm worker family. So it was rough, but we got by. So no, I don't really have any pets right now. I love them, but you know, somebody else taking care of them.
I read in the question and answers from your publishers that you actually said no to Sandra the first 5 times, I think, she asked you to illustrate
10.
the book. 10. And I just kind of wanted to hear how she finally twisted your arm.
You know, you have to tell that story because I have this kind of memory of, I can't remember any of that one. I remember.
I do because I was in shock.
And I can't remember.
Well, I'm a fine artist, whatever that means. I don't do commercial. I don't do like illustrating books. So I've known Sandra for a long time, and I've been a fan of hers forever. And she has collected my work, so we know each other on that level. So when I was real surprised when she phoned me one day, though, and asked me if I would illustrate her new book.
You know, because it wasn't a book yet.
Oh, okay.
It was a short
A
story.
work in progress,
And it was
kind of.
supposed to be part of the next collection.
Okay.
But I was reading it when I was out on the road. You know, I always do that. I take a new work that isn't, you know, quite done, and reading it out loud, when you laugh or when you pause, it teaches me, one, how to read it and how to write it. So I cut it, or, you know, I learned how to write the piece, performing it. So it was a story in progress. I was reading it when I was on the 25th anniversary tour, so some people might have heard a draft of it then. And something was happening every time I read it. People would get very quiet. And then some people would come up to me and their eyes were like a glass of water all the way to the top. And I knew that if I just said boo, they would burst into tears. So I said, this is a story that has very powerful medicine, and I thought it should be a book. And that's why I wanted you on board, because you had just lost your mom.
I had just lost my mom, correct. But the whole idea of translating like a writer's words into images was like really frightening. I've never done that before. And then also working with these fancy agents and publishers from New York, that was kind of scary. And then also this thing with schedules, like having to meet timelines and all of that. Because I'm used to doing whatever I want, whenever I want, and whenever it happens, it happens. So those were the things. So I said no, and I said no. And of course she didn't listen to me, and she sent me the story. I do, because I was like scared. But anyway, I read the story, and it was just a very beautiful story, and it touched me deeply, and basically I felt that it was like my story too. So then I agreed to collaborate with her. That's kind of what happened.
And you know, usually people need to know this, that when you do a book, you don't bring your artist and say, okay, I want to do a book with, they don't like that. Usually you bring a book and they make an arranged match, like an arranged marriage. It's very unusual that I could come and say, I want to do a book with so-and-so.
Well, let's talk a little bit about, picking up on that, a little bit about the creative process in mourning, whether it's through a mourning process, whether it's writing or creating visual art. Was it different for you because you were doing it in the mourning process? Was it different after your mothers had passed? Did it change? Did it stay the same? How did you get through?
Well, I I wonder what Ester's going to say, because I don't know how. I know that she has said, you've told me that it helped you through
Yes.
that time.
Yes, when my mother passed, I was also, breaking up from a long-term relationship, and there were just a lot of things going on, so I got really, really sick, and I just didn't know where to go with all of the grief and everything that was going on. And I kind of read about different ways people kind of mourn, everything from women in Samoa way back, where they would like cut their hair and knock their teeth out, to sort of move that inside pain to like another level. And then the native women, like up in the up above the area that I'm from, the Monachi native people up in California, who when somebody dies they never say their name anymore because they're afraid that that'll keep the spirit from going to where it should be going. And so I kind of read all this stuff, and I just couldn't make any art. I was really struggling, so you just sort of came at a really important time in my life, and because I hadn't really released all of that sadness, and I hadn't been able to move on. So it was sort of really a healing thing for me to sort of get back to work and channel my energy into this beautiful story. And basically, to me, the story and the bottom line was just really to remind me what my mother would always say about that the spirits never leave us, that they're always in our heart, and that I should remember that to remember that I'm never alone. So I feel really grateful to have that sort of knowledge and sort of given back to me or reminded me. So I thank her for that.
That's interesting that you say that you were reluctant and stuck with your art, because I was stuck with my art too. I couldn't write during that time, and I didn't comb my hair, thanks to the writer Lois Ann Yamanaka, who gave me permission not to comb my hair. And that's a really good excuse not to answer the phone and not to answer the door, and it's real deep depression. So when Rosalind, the real Rosalind, came and lost her cat, I thought, oh great, now I gotta go out and talk to people. And she was very gregarious. She was chatting with all the neighbors, and she knew more people at the end of the 2 weeks than I did. And I was just kind of following behind her. And I was doing it to quedar bien, because I'm the host. I thought, oh yeah, okay, I'll help you. I'll put up $100, but I really didn't want to be there. I wanted to be at home. I wanted to be at my desk. I was wasting time with this silly cat. And, but then I felt guilty, because if I'd lost one of my animals, I would be weeping inconsolably. So I thought, okay, I'll come with you. And then something magical happened that woke me up to be present. And that was that a little girl who was actually with her sister, just like in the story. She wasn't hanging upside down, but she was in her front yard. And she took the flyer. You could tell she couldn't read, but she showed it to her cat. And the cat came and checked it out and touched it the way cats, the cats touch things with their nose. So when you say hello to a cat, you don't pet it, because they go like, oh, you have to go like this. And then if they do this, that means I give you permission to pet me. So does the cat touch the paper? Like, let me check it out. Let me see if I know this guy. No. And it was really funny, because she knew to show it to the cat, and the cat knew to touch the paper and let me know. So I was just standing there, and it was the first time that I started laughing in a long time. And I thought, oh, wow, this is great. I need to write about this. And that moment, watching that little girl show the flyer to her cat, made me start being a little more playful as we were walking and asking Marie, my friend Rosalind, let's ask that squirrel if she's seen Marie. How about that little Pekingese dog there? Just to make her laugh. And as we were walking along the river, I started hearing the birds sounding like they were calling Marie. And I started feeling, also a great sadness for my mom. And I was happy to be outside, because I forgot that when your heart is that open, you're also open to things of beauty. And I forgot that, to be under the sky, to be with clouds, to be under the trees with birds along the river was making me very happy and calm and feeling my mom's presence. So it was this little cat that led me on that journey. Then I went back to my desk and I let Rosalind look for Marie. And I wrote the story with real people that are my neighbors who have had real losses. I started kind of weaving them into the story, making the story bigger and better. So eventually, not like the book, Rosalind found the cat on her own. And eventually I shaped that story and kept reading it on the road to you. And you helped me to know when I should cut a part or when some part was funny and I needed to slow down. I'm still learning how to read it each time I read it out loud.
I think what I'll do is I'll show some of the illustrations
Yes.
and you guys can talk about them.
Yes.
But one of the things I wanted to say is you mentioned something about using French pastels, French pencils to do the
Pastel
illustrations.
pencils, yes.
And so
Why?
Why? Because the way you talk about it is like these French pencils.
I like to have my hands physically and touching the materials. Mostly because I'm worthless with computers, okay? Let's get real. My 8-year-old granddaughter's like been teaching me stuff. But that's cool. It's fine.
I have to say, that's really my house. The house
Yes.
formerly known as Purple, but it was never purple, it was periwinkle. It's now Mexican pink. And I know you invented this scene because the real Rosalind's probably having a fit. It was not like this in real life. In real life, Rosalind arrived in the middle of the night, near tears, and I wasn't coming out of the house, so there was none of this.
Now she tells me. She gave me a lot of, what should I say? She let me freedom, let's say, to interpret things as I felt. So I'm really grateful to that too.
This is the real David Chavez, Dave the Cowboy, my neighbor, who has rescued me from many a dead snake or rodentia. And he has always, I always like to live in the city because it's close enough so that when you scream, the neighbor comes over. So you can never live in the country. And this is my neighbor, and they have lots of dogs like I do. And he always has cars and trucks and boats that don't work in the driveway. And this is one of his dogs. And we included him in the story even though he wasn't in the real walk. And later on we asked if he would pose, and he did. Except he doesn't wear shirts like that. I think that instead...
I made him a hippie.
You made him... That's like it's not a Texan shirt.
San Francisco, we can't help it. But check out his ranflita. I mean, look at the license plate. Hello. Cruising, honey.
I like footpaths. It's funny you put a snake because he did rescue me from a big snake once.
Well, you wanted me to put all of the plants and flora and fauna of San Antonio in there, so I tried my best. Those are blue, what are they called? Blue bonnets.
He's so thrilled that he wants 6 copies now of his family. So he wasn't in the real walk. I wove him in when I went back to my desk. Now this is, you want to talk about these 2 little girls instead?
Well, I think you knew them better than I did. But,
They're the children of a politician, of a state representative, and in the story we needed 2 girls, but he has a girl and a boy, and we didn't tell him that, so we had to do a gender reassignment.
We're worried about him.
Yeah, we're worried. I haven't shown his father the illustration yet. So. But anyway, we wanted 2 girls. And then I tried to change the story to accommodate my friend. I put a little girl and a little boy, and my editor in New York said, no, put it back the way it was. It was better, 2 little girls. I was like, okay. And you had to work on changing the little boy, the one on the right, and make him her.
My granddaughter was very helpful.
Yeah.
Actually, the truth of the matter is, in all of these illustrations, and for most of the illustrations, because I worked I took a lot of photographs, so they're photo generated or influenced, but in none of them did I have anything 100%. So in a lot of them I had to rework them and just collage, photo collage, I don't know, 10 or 15 times.
Yeah, and we also had to
they were on monkey bars.
We had to call neighbors and say, can we photograph your children this Saturday? The artist is coming between this time, and can you have him hanging upside down? So, we had to take them.
They were very accommodating, actually. The kids, anyway. But see, they were hanging on monkey bars, so then I had to sort of find some architecture from that region that would work with the railing and all of that kind of stuff, and then I added those geckos.
Yeah, I like
Yeah,
it because that's how I used to be as a girl, you know, with your chones showing, and you know, that's
Escándalo.
real girls, you know, real
Escándalo.
Okay. Next image. Oh, now tell about this, who this is.
This is my granddaughter, Anais. Right now she lives in Singapore. She was born in Japan. But she was here visiting, and I shared the book with her, and she was really, really excited about it. And I think the book really appeals to not only just adults, but also to children. And she was just like holding her breath until she really found out what happened to the cat. So, anyway, so she really got into
Show
it.
and tell.
Pardon? Oh yeah, she was so proud. I sent her a copy of the book, and she went and shared it with her schoolmates right away, so she's kind of a little celeb right now. But anyway, she got totally into it. She's totally a ham anyway. So when I asked her to model,
turn it upside down.
it was because kids do that.
Yeah.
Okay, she could read it. What's wrong with that? You know, if she can read it, who cares? What else matters?
So some of the models are that,
Are right.
when you didn't have time to photograph
Yes.
people in Texas, some of the models are living in
Right.
San Francisco or are related to you.
Yes, that's right. The cat also passed away recently, Buster. He was a friend of mine. Okay.
Talk about this.
Well, this is in the scene when the family's having like the barbecue, and these two women there are kind of poking their nose over the fence, and checking out the barbecue, and in the back, the guy playing the guitar is from San Antonio. He's a real musician
a
too.
real musician and lives in my neighborhood
Yeah.
and has a conjunto taller and a beautiful institution called the Conjunto Heritage Institute that teaches young people how to play Tejano music. So we went, riding down the street, and I saw him and said, "Hey, Rudy, can you pose for us?" And he did. He actually
God,
appears in
yeah.
the book 2 times as himself, playing the instrument, and he also plays the bearded man collecting the cans.
Right. And then the young woman next to him is a young woman from San Francisco, and she belongs to a family that plays sort of Tex-Mex, Mexican music. And I thought it would be kind of cool to have a woman playing the accordion. And on the left is that fabulous grandmother with a
Grandma Zuna.
Grandma Zuna. What does she say again about the queque?
Yeah, she says, ¿Qué? Because in San Antonio they do call cake queque.
Yes, over here too.
But you used a model from
A friend of mine's mother, and she has, ay, pobrecita señora. She's so beautiful, I couldn't resist asking her, even though she has a little bit of Alzheimer's. And I couldn't get her to pose or anything, or to laugh. Because there's one part where she's laughing, until her daughter told her, Mama, think about a naked man. She wouldn't stop laughing. Whatever works. But she was totally wonderful, a really beautiful woman. And she came to the event that we had in San Francisco. So we took some pictures with her, and she was really, really present and very proud.
Actually, I half own this dog because this is my daycare dog. She comes in the day, and at night she goes with her father. So I share this dog with my ex. Her name is Lolita, and she was a very good model because she has naturally sad, watery eyes. So, since I own her, it was easy to photograph her, no? Yeah.
Very much so.
You could look at the promo video that's on my website to see the real dog and to see the image. But my ex is so happy that we finally put his dog in a book. It's so thrilled.
Maybe he'll propose. Ooh.
Not to me.
Yeah. Well, the dogs were pretty good. Everything was pretty good as far as modeling, whatever that means. Except for the cats. Drove me crazy.
Yeah.
They just, you can't even look at a cat if you don't know them because they're gone. Put a camera in front of them and it's over. So those are the ones that really gave me a few more gray hairs.
Yeah, that was the only, you said that was the only
At the
model.
end, right.
Yeah. Are there any more images?
Yes.
Let's see what else we have.
This is kind of fun. This is the first time we do
This is
this.
the first time we're doing this.
Oh, this is my mamita.
So did you use a
She was
picture-
quite a jardinera.
Did you use a picture to
I used about 3 different pictures, and then I had a friend of mine holding the water hose, and then my mother had like hundreds of different types of roses. So in the story, it's like really, really a hot moment, and the rose is wilting.
Laughs at us. I don't know.
I like it.
She's been, one of the most easy models to work with, right?
I mean, we were at a restaurant. There were like 100 people there. We went in there and told her what we were up to, and she just got right into it. And I think I took 2 pictures of her, and she was just perfect.
Yeah.
She has very beautiful energy and spirit, so it was really wonderful to work with her. And it really does look like it really captured her energy.
She's a wonderful historian, Chicana historian. Now this is not a yard sale. This is what a house looks like in my neighborhood.
Mine too.
And it's filled, every day it looks like this. And they moved recently, so even before the book came out, this is gone. This is now an archive to a way of living. They moved, and they took every single little statue, every little Buddha, it's all completely like they moved away, and I thought, I was so sad because I enjoyed this house.
Right, yeah. Reminds me of my mother's house. That's why I had fun putting the Buddha right next to the cans of pozole and menudo. And you don't want to waste the can, hey.
This is kind of the Chicano.
That's what my mother was. I have a plant that she left, and it has a pie pan, like right underneath it. Perfect.
This is like the Chicano aesthetics of more is more.
Rascuache.
So, this is not the only thing that you've documented in the book that's no longer there. There's people that have passed away that you drew. There's this and some businesses that have gone. So it's nice that we're documenting a moment that is dissolving and moving away. We asked someone we know, not someone we know closely, that we just ran into, and I saw her face at an art event, and it was like, her! Grab her! And her name is Gloria Ramirez. She works at the Esperanza Peace and Cultural Center, and we were at an art opening, and we just went up to her. I was looking for someone who had a Tejana face, whose family had been there generations, and so we asked her if she would pose for a project. She didn't know what we were photographing her for, or what we were going to do with her face.
Her hair.
Yeah. So, if you want to see her real photo, you can go on my website and look at the link, and you'll see the real woman. But, she looks kind of startled in the photo, but you made her look calm and wise. And, of course, you made her hair fabulous. This is the river, and mention why you put the blossoms as
Well, I have a real interest in Japanese art and culture. So it was the cherry blossoms, sort of talking about time, that we're just passing by. They kind of symbolize that just as a reminder. So that's kind of why I use the cherry blossoms. And the butterfly also in Mexican indigenous culture, the butterfly represents the spirit of the ancestors. So, and aside from the fact that you also wanted me to sort of depict a lot of the different flora and fauna.
and emotions.
And emotions.
Yeah. Also, the voice of the river that you heard, I based that on the waitresses at Torres Taco Haven. The waitresses there, they don't say sweetheart or honey, they say, what do you want, mamas? Just, don't you worry, I'll be right back. It's like Torres Taco Haven is like the Barrelas coffee house. It's our Barrelas coffee house. It's Torres Taco Haven. And the waitresses are busy, 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 and they always call you mamas.
But I think you could mention about what's going on around, how
Yes.
it's changing.
The river is also changing behind my house. There are now bulldozers back there. They had promised us when they developed and linked the downtown Riverwalk that you know with the missions that they were not going to touch the bank on the side where our houses are. And I was very upset because they made that promise that they were going to, kind of respect the nature and respect the houses. And No, that's not so. Sure enough, there were like golf carts and bulldozers behind my bank of the river, and they've mowed down plants and put in beautiful plants, but landscape plants nonetheless.
Drawing people has always been really easy for me. Actually, I had my first exhibit outside of school when I was in the first grade, and I've always been drawing people. I've always been kind of snoopy, I think. So I always wanted, if there were more than 2 people standing, I wanted to go see what was going on. But so drawing people is easy, but when she came up with this part of the book, it was like super difficult. And even when there's like portraying emotions, it was really, it took a lot of time and a lot of dream time trying to figure out where to go with it. And so, but it was fun. I learned a lot. Just checking out the different characters, learning about who they were, and even looking at maps, which I love to do. So it was a whole lesson in itself. And it was fun. I really enjoyed it.
This is my favorite image in the book. I wish they would make postcards. And it's the climax of the book when the moon comes out and brings a rebozo of stars and wraps the protagonist in a rebozo of stars. But this was the first drawing I think you did,
This
right?
is the first drawing, yeah. The first line drawing that we presented to the publishers, right? Sort of, then they sort of got it to some degree.
Yeah, because at first, they didn't know how to classify this book. Is this a kid's book? What is this? Picture book for adults? It's kind of strange and not sure where to put it.
Well, the interesting thing about it is, like, Sandra comes out quite a bit in the book, but also a friend of mine, one of my co-workers, she's a Dene Navajo, so she also is in the book, and she helped model for quite a few of the images.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so there are a lot of different people. I mean, that's, I think, the beauty of the book too. It's very multicultural. A lot of diversity being shown in terms of, like the coupled and,
Yeah. The
just
neighborhood
different,
is
the
not
neighborhood, poor,
usually
rich,
when you think
everything.
about Texas, at least when I moved to Texas 25 years ago, when you read Texana, it was a cowboy and it was a guy. And I never saw people like myself in Texana literature. So this is, like it or not, very revolutionary for Texana writing.
Well, that's what one of my nieces, she teaches preschool, and she said it was so refreshing to see a book, because a lot of times when people talk about multicultural books, it's like, okay, here's the blacks, here's the Asian, here's the native, here's blah, 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 and never together like the way we really are. So I think this is nice. It's a nice part of the book.
Oh, tell the story about this.
Well, the cats that drove me nuts, remember? Okay, well, this was the only time a cat, Sandra's cat, where I was really able to like move in and take a picture of a cat in the way that it needed to be portrayed in the book, and that's just because that's Sandra's cat.
Yes,
so
my
that
cat
made it
had
possible.
to pose, even though my cat is not black and white. You had to change the coloring.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because all the
I hope he
black
doesn't
and white
mind.
cats, we ran after black and white cats, and they would look at her like, "Who are you?" I don't know. You're really for me.
Don't look at me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we had to use my cat.
That's why I love cats, though.
Yeah.
Because they're like me. Don't look at me.
And this was, you said, the most difficult. It was your last drawing. It's the last drawing of the book and the most difficult drawing.
Right. We talked about everything else a lot of times before I would start drawing, and I didn't know anything about how to illustrate a book. They're supposed to be like, what do they call it? I don't know. You do all these sort of pre-planning. We didn't do any of that. I just kind of jumped into whatever I liked, and we went from there. So we pretty much would dialogue a lot, back and forth, about how to develop it.
We even had to do like little mock-ups.
Yeah.
Telephone call from San Francisco and like cut and paste and make a little
Right.
model of the book.
Yes. But we talked about everything except the very last page.
I thought maybe that the cat should have a little kind of magical symbol on the top, like to show that it was Buddha or something like that. So we tried that. It didn't work, right? It looked like the cat was drunk or something.
Yeah. We went through, I don't know, that was the one that was the most difficult. I think it's because you said too that it's because you didn't really know how it was going to come together. And the ending was like really, you couldn't really say what was going to happen unless you'd gone through the journey. So it was quite interesting, but we got there. I think you were happy. You wanted a happy ending, if I remember correctly.
Yes. Is that our last image, or do we hang in?
Oh, wrong name, sorry.